Hi everyone, welcome back to the show. Today we're diving into Leonardo DiCaprio, and it's being claimed that he disappeared once everything relating to Diddy and Epstein came to be. Essentially, once it all came to the news, Leonardo DiCaprio bounced and is now hiding. No one really knows where he's hanging out. Now, inside of this video, there's another Easter egg. That's something that is a big surprise for you guys. I couldn't believe it when I saw it myself. It's around the middle part of the video, so make sure you don't miss it. Thanks for subscribing to the channel. Now let's dive in to this one.
Come up, accept your little award, thank your agent and your God, and f*** off. Once upon a time in Hollywood, nearly 3 hours long, Leonardo DiCaprio attended the premiere, and by the end, his date was too old for him. So, even Prince Andrew's like, come on, Leo, mate, you know.
Just called out both Prince Andrew and Leonardo DiCaprio. So even though Ricky Gervais is coming here with a whole bunch of jokes, we all already know that there's quite a bit of truth within them. We've covered him on the channel extensively.
You're nearly 50, son.
It was Ricky Gervais. Everyone found it amusing. However, no one noticed this at the moment.
So in the end, he obviously didn't himself, just like Jeffrey Epstein. Shut up. I know he's your friend, but I don't care.
It wasn't simply famous people he was making fun of. He was cautioning us about a network so extensive that even Jim Caviezel referred to it, as well as about Leonardo DiCaprio and Ellen DeGeneres.
I called her out. I was like, Ellen's not that nice.
This was after you went on the show?
After I went on the show.
Tonight isn't just about the people in front of camera. In this room are some of the most important TV and film executives in the world. People from every background, but they all have one thing in common. They're all terrified of Ronan Farrow. He's coming for you. He's coming for you.
As he stood on stage, Ricky Gervais stared down the A-listers in Hollywood and said his mind. And now, with the Epstein papers released, we fully understand what he was truly saying. Reason being, Ricky was fully aware of everything.
The funny thing is, we, the people, society, are now understanding what he was talking about. But when you're thinking about the people that were in the room, that were at the events, they all knew what he was talking about at that moment because they are in that society. Whether they engage or not, they know exactly what's going on behind closed doors.
Among Hollywood's most courageous truth-tellers, Ricky Gervais has stood out for quite some time. On stages packed with A-listers, Ricky boldly speaks what no other comic would dare to say, while others play it safe. The Golden Globes, award events, interviews, he's called out hypocrisy, exposed bogus activism, and humiliated the privileged to their faces. But there were two names he kept looping back to. Two people he cautioned us about again and again, Leonardo DiCaprio and Ellen DeGeneres.
Oh, look at them both together right there on the same scene as well.
People at the time mistakenly believed he was just being himself, edgy. But now the Epstein papers have been disclosed, and suddenly those jokes don't seem so funny anymore. Because Ricky wasn't kidding. He was warning us.
In the end, he obviously didn't himself, just like Jeffrey Epstein. Shut up. I know he's your friend, but I don't care.
Let's start with Leonardo DiCaprio. Ricky has been unrelenting about Leo for years. The age jokes, the dating patterns, the hypocrisy. And every time Ricky brought it up, Hollywood laughed it off. But then the Epstein files fell, and Leo's name was right there. Not because he's accused of a crime, let's be clear about that, but because of someone he was personally related to, his ex-girlfriend Alicia Red. Newly disclosed emails showed that when Alicia was seeing Leonardo DiCaprio, she was apparently conversing with Jeffrey Epstein. And these weren't casual emails. She dubbed Epstein Love Bunny. She wrote things like, "I'll find a girl for you this time, I promise. I'm really bitter now. I'll do anything."
Wow, so basically what they're saying and what they're accusing that girl of was being within the Epstein network, maybe someone that was actually abused by him herself. That's not confirmed, but from what we just heard, definitely someone that was trying to bring women or girls to Epstein herself.
Europe would be preferable to locate a small girl. Let that sink in, little girl. Her words. Not conjecture, not rumor. Her exact remarks in an email to Jeffrey Epstein. And this was when she was dating one of the most renowned actors in the world. So the issue isn't whether Leo is guilty of anything. The issue is, what did Leonardo DiCaprio know, and when did he know it? because here's where Ricky's warnings start to make sense. For decades, Ricky has been pointing out Leo's pattern, the pattern that everyone noticed but nobody wanted to speak about. Leonardo DiCaprio has a very unique type, youthful, always young, and there's a cutoff, 25 years old.
So this is the girl that was allegedly sending those messages to Epstein and dating Leo, Alicia Rimbenkova. And disturbingly, while she was dating Leo, she seems to have been trying to out girls and friends of hers to the Epstein machine. So here's another message from Alicia to Jeffrey Epstein sent in 2010. As you can see, she said, "But in the meantime, do you want to see my friend Swedish girl, remember?" Epstein says, "Who?" And she says, "Remember, I brought the girl to your house in Palm Beach like 4 years ago." That would have been in around 2006. There's also this message that she wrote, as you can see back in 2010, Alicia sent to Epstein. "I'll find a girl for you this time, I promise. I'm so bitter now, I'll do anything. Europe would be better to find little girl." I don't see how you're possibly going to defend that one if you're Alicia.
Yeah,
When
that's
Ricky
tough.
delivered the joke, everyone laughed. But look at the facts. In 2022, Leo split up with Camilla Moroni only months after she turned 25. Before her, Bar Raffaele dumped the year she turned 25. Kelly Rohrbach dated in 2015, the year she turned 25. Nina Agdal, relationship terminated in 2017, the year she turned 25. Giselle Bündchen, together when she was in her early 20s. The graph is genuine, the trend is apparent, and Ricky yelled it out again and over. But some disregarded it as a jest. Oh, that's just Leo being Leo. Except now we know that when Leo was seeing Alicia, she was supposedly recruiting young women for Jeffrey Epstein, and the emails show it.
I think that's the biggest part right here about the recruitment that was going on. You know, Leonardo DiCaprio liking women that are in their early 20s, to each their own. Whether you think that that's okay or not, they're not underage, they are adults, and they have the capability to make those decisions themselves. That's on the girl in her 20s and Leonardo DiCaprio. We could judge as a society if we want to, but I personally don't think that it's worth doing. To each their own. But that connection, that Epstein connection, that potential bringing girls to Epstein is a much bigger deal and a bigger part of this story.
One communication from 2010 reads, "Do you want to see my friend, Swedish girl? Remember I took the girl to your place in Palm Beach about 4 years ago? That would have been 2006, right around the time she was with Leo." Another email, "I'll find a girl for you this time, I promise." She even offered a 20-year-old woman to Epstein, giving photographs and contact information. This wasn't a one-time event. This was an active recruiting pattern, and it occurred while she was in Leo's life. Now, to be very clear, there is no proof that Leonardo DiCaprio engaged in or knew about these actions. Being referenced in the Epstein files does not entail guilt, but the timing raises issues. The closeness raises issues, and Ricky Gervais saw it years before the files leaked. He spotted the pattern, and he attempted to inform us. But Leo isn't the only name Ricky warned us about.
Yeah, and now we're about to get into someone else that we actually just recently spoke about here on the channel that always seems to come up over and over again. But first of all, before we get into that next one, I want to know, what do you think about Leonardo DiCaprio? Do you think that it's okay for him to like people that are in their 20s to date? Do you think that he's deeply involved with Jeffrey Epstein? Curious about your thoughts.
There's another, someone with an even wider platform, someone who built a whole business on being nice, Ellen DeGeneres.
And I have a lot of fun going to late night parties with my friends. Most of the time I go to Epstein's Island.
Did you hear that? Tell me that that is AI that made that. I cannot confirm that that's actually real. Did she actually say this on television? Oh, let's replay that back.
Ellen DeGeneres.
And I have a lot of fun going to late night parties with my friends. Most of the time I go to Epstein's Island, and there's a lot more fun there than you think. I've made quite a few friends there.
Welcome to season 18 of the Ellen DeGeneres Show. This summer, there were allegations of a toxic work environment at our show, and then there was an investigation. I learned that things happened here that never should have happened.
That was Ellen's apology in 2020, after 36 former workers came out citing a poisonous, abusive work environment. But here's what's interesting. Ricky never bought the good act. While the rest of Hollywood praised Ellen as America's darling, Ricky maintained his distance. He never appeared on her program. He never endorsed her. And when you look at the chronology today, it's scary. In October 2024, 3 months before the publication of Epstein records, Ellen sold her California property, acquired a $15 million estate in rural England, and discreetly departed the country. Why? Why depart just before the files dropped?
We've spoken about this before. This is not new news. She said that she left because Trump came into office and that she didn't want to be under his reign. But this also happened while Diddy and while the Epstein files were coming out. So a lot of people tend to believe that she was actually just trying to escape because her name is deeply involved in a lot of those.
Why sell everything? Why go silent? According to Jim Caviezel, an actor who was blacklisted for speaking up about Hollywood's dark secrets, Ellen's name has been circulating in insider circles for years. Jim was scorned, dismissed as a conspiracy theorist, but he continued talking. He warned us about what he dubbed the 8-armed octopus, a network so enormous, so protected, that chopping off one arm achieves nothing. The system remains intact.
We had 1,500 patriots, people that were interested in seeing the film in Las Vegas. During one part of the film, everybody in the audience started whispering. And of course you're watching the viewers to see if they're even interested in the movie, but they were very, very locked in. At one point, they all started whispering, and I thought I've never seen that before. So after the movie, I asked them a couple of questions, and then I had to ask them, why were you whispering at this one particular part in the movie? And I didn't pick up on it. And they all started screaming out Epstein Island.
Would absolutely die. If this were to change the world and get rid of and pornography and all of the 8 arms of this octopus that has to be destroyed.
First, the toxic workplace charges. Employees came forward with tales that portrayed a totally different image of Ellen. She openly expressed her deep disdain for her audience and her own show.
You know, I'm sitting here thinking as they dive back into Ellen DeGeneres left the country. She left the United States to go to Europe so that she could escape Trump being president. But really it was because of, the Epstein-related things and Diddy. Leonardo DiCaprio, is he in the same boat? Now, obviously he dated young girls, or I should say young women because they're not girls, young women. And one of them had some connections to Epstein, allegedly. He obviously knew what was going on with Epstein's Island. There's no doubt in my mind that he knew what happens. And he definitely knew what happens in Dirty Hollywood because he's been in Hollywood since he was a kid himself. Is he escaping for the same reason as Ellen? Because he's deeply involved in it? Or because if you just know about it, I can't see you running away from it. I feel like you only run away if it's found that you were deep enough involved where you can actually get arrested yourself.
I was instructed that I can't look her in the eye and never ever say hi to her first. I once worked at WB. I held the elevator for Ellen. 30 minutes later, I received a call from my employer claiming I was dismissed because I was near her. These aren't isolated incidents. 36 workers came forward. 3 executive producers were sacked. Warner Media started a complete inquiry. And Ellen's response? A written apology, and then quiet. But former workers didn't buy it.
Liar, hypocrite. That's my reaction. She's known about this for 17 years. She's created this culture.
And that's precisely what Jim Caviezel warned would happen. The powerful defend each other, they control the narrative, and when the walls start closing in, they vanish. Now, here's where it all joins. Ricky Gervais hosted the Golden Globes 5 times, and every single time he utilized the platform to point out the industry's hypocrisy. He didn't simply make jokes, he made charges. And 2 of his favorite targets, Leonardo DiCaprio and the culture of silence that shields individuals like Ellen.
Our next presenter starred in Netflix's Bird Box, a movie where people survive by acting like they don't see a thing. Sort of like working for Harvey Weinstein.
Whoa. That's a new one that I haven't heard before. I don't remember that clip. That's crazy right there. He's been getting called out forever as well. I mean, the crowd knew. Did you?
You did it. I didn't. You did it. Shut the f*** up. Yeah. So, if you do win an award tonight, don't use it as a platform to make a political speech, right? You're in no position to lecture the public about anything. You know nothing about the real world. Most of you spent less time in school than Greta Thunberg. So, if you win, right, come up Accept your little award, thank your agent and your God, and off.
Leo celebrities who preach about climate change while flying private planes and courting women young enough to be their kids. But it was also a warning about the whole system. The dishonesty, the shielding, the quiet. And Ellen was the queen of that system for 19 seasons. She had a platform to speak up, to expose injustice, to utilize her voice for meaningful change. But when the Epstein files began appearing, and people starting being identified, she said nothing. Not a single speech, not a single interview, just quiet. And she's not alone. Jimmy Kimmel, Jimmy Fallon, Stephen Colbert, Seth Meyers, these are hosts who speak about everything. They covered Harvey Weinstein, they covered R. Kelly, they covered Diddy. But when it comes to the Epstein files and the names within them, crickets, Jim Caviezel calls this the octopus.
Yeah, we know about the octopus, and as she was going in, or as this AI she was going into talking about how Ellen didn't ever expose Epstein, in my mind, I'm thinking no one has. Okay, Ellen's bad in her own right, but no one has spoken about it. Then they went into all the other late night television shows that also didn't talk about it, and it's because the Epstein network owns everything. Everyone's in bed with it in every time. If you think about a television show you watch, a talk show, a game show, a movie, all of them are in some way connected to that 8-arm octopus that Jim Caviezel's talking about.
You can take off one arm, remove one producer, one presenter, one actor, but the system survives. The other arms keep moving, and the individuals at the top remain safe.
Who needs the Oscars? Not me, and not Eddie Murphy. He walked out on them. He said no, and good for him. But when the man who said yes to Norbit says no to you, you know you're in trouble.
Kim Kardashian wasn't left out.
Kim Kardashian and some guy no one will ever remember. He wasn't around long. 72 days. A marriage that lasted 72 days. I've sat through longer James Cameron acceptance speeches than that.
He also called out the foreign press.
Boardwalk Empire. I love that show. It's great. It's, for those who don't know, it's about a load of immigrants who came to America about 100 years ago, and they got involved in bribery and corruption, and they worked their way up into high society. But enough about the Hollywood foreign press.
What Gervais said that night was not simply a joke. Looking back today, it reads more like a warning shot thrown squarely at an elite circle that had for decades operated with astonishing impunity. He stood there, drink in hand, peering into a sea of uneasy grins and shifting eyes, and he stated what many people in that room plainly did not want spoken out loud, and the cameras recorded every awkward response. Now, in light of the remarkable document dumps that have followed, that Golden Globes moment has taken on an altogether new meaning.
What made you think, you know what, I'm just going to hammer him? I don't care what the...
Well, I thought, when they said, do you want to host the Golden Globes, all that stuff I said in the show was true. I said, I'm going to write my own jokes. Right? And I thought, who do I pander to? The 200 richest people in the room, or the 200 million people watching at home who aren't winning awards, who aren't millionaires? And it was a no-brainer. I was doing it for them, you know, and I didn't want to, it wasn't set out to hurt their feelings, but it was, if you're going to make it a spectator sport, then you better have something, there better be something in it for the people at home.
Now, if you've made it this far, I know a lot of you, when you watch these videos, it's the morning time or the evening, you're sipping on some tea or coffee. I personally am drinking some coffee right now. Let me know if you're at this point in the video, what it is you're sipping on at this moment in time, whether it be coffee, tea, water, or something else. I'd love to know.
The speech was harsh. From the very first phrase, he attacked Hollywood's infatuation with itself. Congratulations. He took aim at streaming companies, scoffed at diversity, privilege, and the broader gap between celebrity culture and average life. But nothing hit quite like the moment he name-dropped Jeffrey Epstein. Comparing the legendary financier's strange death to his own show's narrative twist, Gervais tossed the name into the room like a live grenade. The crowd gasped and moaned. And then came the statement that has now been repeated millions of times. Shut up. I know he's your buddy, but I don't care. He did not let it rest there lightly either. He twisted the knife further, pointing out that unlike his fictitious character, Epstein had not made it out alive. With the implication hanging heavy in the wonderfully conditioned Beverly Hills air, the cameras, as cameras usually do, panned to the crowd. What they filmed was extraordinary. Nervous laughing, stiff grins, features that communicated much more than any rehearsed answer ever could. Tom Hanks was seen looking obviously disgusted. These were not the responses of those who just did not grasp the humor. These were the responses of folks who understood it entirely. To understand why that moment was so momentous,
You are so brilliant, and you are so constantly making us aware of like crossing the line in the most sort of brutal but sensitive way that you realize as a comedian there is no line.
There is no. I wouldn't
There's
say,
no line.
No, it's like it depends on the joke. You know, it's funny because journalists say to me, "Is there anything you wouldn't joke about?" And I say, "Is there anything you wouldn't write about?" It depends, and I think that's where a lot of offence comes. People mistake the subject of a joke with the actual target, and they're not. You know, they're not the same. You can joke about anything, but it depends what the joke is, and comedy comes from a good place. And I deal in taboo subjects because I do like that little, what's he going to say? And it's always okay, you know, because just because you're joking about something, it doesn't mean you're anti it or pro it. And I think that's the other thing. I think people think there's an angle, like a joke's a joke.
He just said it doesn't mean you're anti it or pro it. So is he saying, and I just putting this out there, I don't believe it, but is he saying he's joking about Epstein doesn't mean he's anti it? No, that's not what he's saying, although that could be stretched in that way.
We don't mean it. We're trying to make you laugh. It's a, you know, it's a play on words.
Position on.
I know,
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
not a TED Talk. That's
No, exactly. Yeah, and I hate that when people think that. You know, a joke is the window to the comedian's true soul. I'll pretend to be left wing. I'll pretend to be right wing. I'll pretend to be clever. I'll pretend to be stupid. Whatever makes the joke funnier. And most people know that. But it's like some people who they want to be offended. They go, "That's terrible. You shouldn't joke about that." I once tweeted a thing saying, "What's the one thing you should never joke about?" 1,000 different answers. And that was my set list.
And you one-handed tweet, which is very impressive.
Gervais is not a Hollywood insider. He is a British comedian, the creator of the original version of The Office for the BBC, a guy who built his career on uncomfortable honesty, sharp humor, and a real disgust for institutional duplicity. He does not require Hollywood's approval, and he does not rely on its gatekeepers for his livelihood. And critically, he has developed a career-long philosophy on expressing exactly the things powerful people would prefer keep quiet. When Hollywood offered him the hosting slot, they presumably anticipated something controversial but controllable. What they received was something considerably sharper. Gervais spent his monologue portraying the gathering A-listers not as gods to be revered, but as individuals with something to conceal. His reference to writer Ronan Farrow, the guy who broke some of the most devastating reports about Hollywood wrongdoing, was another signal. He pointed out that every significant power person in the room was scared of Farrow. The uneasy laughing proved it. What set Gervais apart that night was not simply the jokes themselves, but the boldness behind them.
I think what set him apart was the truth behind the jokes and the responses that the crowd had to the truth, knowing what the truth actually was. I think that was what made his jokes so strong. There are probably so many more people in Hollywood that Ricky Gervais could call out for all of these things. We've just heard the tip of that iceberg. And I have more videos on Ricky Gervais and things that he's said about people in Hollywood. You can find one of them right here. It's a great video that I think you're going to enjoy, and I'll see you guys over there.